Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's jump right into this visual notebook we've sketched out. We're going to use this hand-drawn mint green aesthetic to help you conquer your inner roadblocks and really achieve true self-mastery. We've transformed these insights into a totally visual guide, so let's walk through it page by page.
We'll be mapping out our journey up the mountain by hitting 6 specific waypoints today. The mountain is you, rethinking self-sabotage, triggers and emotional intelligence, releasing your past, meeting your future self, and finally, achieving true self-mastery.
Okay, part 1, the mountain is you. Let's kick things off with a slightly harsh but absolutely necessary truth.
See that central mint green blob? That represents your mountain, basically the ultimate roadblock between you and the exact life you want. And as the connecting arrows in this little mind map show, this mountain doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. It's actually built from compounded tiny traumas, adaptations, and these deeply ingrained coping mechanisms. Overcoming it, well, that requires radical accountability and getting completely out of denial about your own unhappiness.
This perfectly illustrates how we hide our true desires. Look at the definition of neurosis here. It's an unconsciously created physical or mental roadblock used as a substitute for legitimate suffering. The source gives a fascinating example of this. A young Carl Jung once hit his head and then subsequently developed these uncontrollable fainting spells. He later realized actually he subconsciously created this neurosis just because he wanted an excuse to avoid school. No way, right? It just perfectly shows how we subconsciously invent these barriers to get what we secretly want.
Moving right along to Section 2, rethinking self-sabotage.
Now this concept completely flips our traditional understanding on its head. We almost always think of self-sabotage as intentional self-harm, don't we? But when you really break it down, it's actually a subconscious protective mechanism. It's designed to fulfill an unrecognized need, or just return you to a familiar state of comfort. Like, you might completely ruin your own professional success just to avoid the scrutiny and jealousy that comes with it. Why? Because what you truly deeply crave in that moment is love and safety, and your ambition directly threatens that.
So the real game changer here is Gay Hendricks' concept of the upper limit. This defines our hidden tolerance for happiness. When things are going great and we blast past that hidden limit, we subconsciously trigger ourselves to ruin our progress. We might create sudden resistance, pick a fight out of nowhere, or even manifest a literal illness just to bring ourselves back down to a familiar, comfortable emotional baseline. Let's turn the page in our notebook to Section 3. Triggers and emotional intelligence. To really build up our emotional intelligence, we have got to stop suppressing our negative emotions. As this little radial sketch outlines, negative emotions actually contain vital messages. We need to interpret our triggers as catalysts for growth. And pay attention to the key term here, micro-shifts. Real change doesn't come from waiting around for massive lightning bolt breakthroughs. It comes from making tiny, daily adjustments, micro-shifts, to gradually acclimate your brain and body to a totally new reality.
Take a look at this insight on jealousy. We usually mischaracterize it as anger or judgment, right? But it's actually a cover-up for sadness and self-dissatisfaction. The takeaway here is pretty clear. Look closely at who you're jealous of because they represent exactly what you desire but are suppressing your willingness to pursue. It's basically a mirror to your own hidden ambition.
And man, this perfectly explains why achieving our goals often feels so strangely empty. Dopamine isn't the chemical of pleasure from actually having something. It's the chemical of merely wanting more. This tells us exactly why hitting a massive milestone doesn't let us just chill and relax. Instead, it just rewires our brain to be even hungrier for the next big thing.
Which brings us to a fascinating and, honestly, somewhat brutal truth about intelligence and anxiety. Highly intelligent people often suffer way more anxiety because their brains act like an endomorph's metabolism. You know, genetically programmed to hold on to fat for dear life. Smart brains are exceptionally good at making what psychologists call faulty inferences. They extract meaning from totally innocent situations and creatively connect completely unrelated dots to predict threats that simply do not exist. Your brain's processing power is literally working against your peace of mind.
Okay, now that we understand the traps our brains set for us, let's look at Chapter 4, Releasing Your Past. Letting go is super widely misunderstood. It isn't about forcing yourself to forget or stubbornly willing yourself not to care. That's highly ineffective.
Effective release is about physically feeling unprocessed emotions that are trapped in your body and simultaneously building a new life that is so totally immersive that the past simply and naturally fades away.
If you've got unprocessed emotions, try this powerful psychological trick we've sketched out here in these 4 steps. First, close your eyes and vividly re-enter a painful memory. Second, superimpose your healed, older self into that exact scene. Third, visualize yourself sitting down right next to your younger self. And fourth, offer them the exact instructions, wisdom, and reassurance they desperately needed at that moment to know everything was going to be okay. It is a profoundly effective way to release trapped emotional energy.
But hey, releasing the past is only half the battle, which brings us to Section 5, meeting your future self.
To establish firm life principles and align your daily actions with your most powerful self, we can actually reverse traditional therapy models. Instead of always looking backward with inner child work, we can pivot and focus intensely on future self visualization.
Here's how you do it, broken down into 3 simple steps. First, meditate and imagine sitting at a table directly across from your highest potential future self. Second, and this is vital, rather than approaching them with panicked, anxious questions about how they got there, just maintain your calm. Third, visualize them calmly handing you the keys to your new life, gently guiding you on exactly the steps you need to take to become them.
Finally, we reach the summit of our sketchnote map, Section 6, Achieving True Self-Mastery.
Self-mastery requires a major operational shift. Unconsciously suppressing your emotions is deeply, physically exhausting. True self-mastery means trading that exhausting pursuit of temporary happiness for the highly sustainable state of inner peace. And you do that by consciously allowing yourself to feel your emotions fully, all while maintaining absolute control over your outward behavior.
The source material uses this gorgeous visual metaphor to sum the whole thing up. The mind is like a lake. Your thoughts and actions are the stones you drop into the water, creating endless ripples. You can't ever force the water to be still. It only returns to stillness on its own when you stop dropping stones into it and when you stop reacting to the ripples.
So, armed with this visual manual, we want to leave you with one final question to ponder. Are you ready to stop dropping stones into the lake? What single, tiny micro shift will you make today to stop fighting your own mind and start climbing your mountain?